Hey, everybody. I'm Russell Hill. I'm your host of WTF Podcast, and that is What to the Fix Stops to all of you out there. And I'm joined today by...
Hey, everybody. I'm Charity, and today we have Douglas Cox, the founder of M2L Consulting, with us. Doug, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here, and I appreciate the invitation.
Yeah, we're happy to have you. And, it would be great if you could give us a brief introduction. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Yes, who are you?
Well, let me think about that. That could be a pretty deep question, I think, or a pretty simple answer. I'm not sure. But back in 2012, the need arose for me to become bivocational. And so I entered the automotive space in 2007. I'm sorry. So in 2007, I started as a salesperson. I fell in love with the industry, and then we moved to San Antonio, Texas in 2011, and I became involved in the Porsche dealership here in San Antonio. So I was pre-owned manager, new car sales manager, and then GSM from 2012 until 2023. And then in 2023, I was given the opportunity to open the largest Lamborghini dealership in North America, maybe the world, by square footage. And I did that for the last 2 years. And just recently, the past it's been about 3 weeks, saw a need, and I'm chasing after a passion of mine, which is speaking and teaching and developing leadership. So I founded M2L Consulting, made to lead. And I'm already working for some groups here in San Antonio, doing some really exciting things. So that's who I am.
I love it. That's great. So you started in a Porsche dealer.
That's right. Well, I started in a Honda dealership in Cincinnati, Ohio. And just as a salesperson, knew nothing about the industry, was terrified the first time I had a real live customer.
I remember.
My knees were shaking. I was standing on the rail with 14 other salespeople. So scared, I don't even remember what I said. So that's how my sales career started. And I think I was so scared, I invited them into the dealership, asked them to sit down, and I just was blatantly honest. I said, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm here to help you. And that formula launched a successful series of seasons for me selling automobiles. Yes.
That's great. That's the best way to communicate with customers. Just be honest with them.
That's right.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. That's great.
A series of fortunate events.
The timing, the way the doors opened, but I will say the doors opened for me. The timing was great. You typically wouldn't rise in a Porsche dealership as quickly as I did, but it was a timing thing. And then I'll also say this to anybody that's listening: you also have to have that ability or that fortitude to push through and take that next step when you feel like you're not qualified, when you're terrified, and when you're stepping up from salesperson into management, or then to a GSM, or then to a general manager. Each one of those steps, I didn't feel like I was qualified, but I took the step anyway, and good things came out of that, obviously.
I understand. That's living your life at the edge of your comfort zone. The only way you can know how to do something is just to start doing it.
That's right. Such true words. Yes, sir.
That's amazing.
Well, you have a really interesting background in all these luxury dealerships, and you've spent quite a bit of time there. I think 17 years is what I came up with.
Correct.
And then you decided to step out and start your own consulting business. So I wanted to ask you about that. What made you want to take a leap from luxury dealerships to consulting?
You have to keep in mind, I didn't just work in a luxury dealership. I also purchased cars. I have a family, I have a wife, I have 3 children. And so I've been through the process. I have a car problem myself. So I've purchased several cars throughout life. And I've always had this desire to, look, Apple has their genius onboarding school. Chick-fil-A has their in-house leadership program. Enterprise has a pipeline of managers constantly flowing in. We know about the Ritz-Carlton. I'm a huge Ritz-Carlton fan, and how they train for culture. And it's always bothered me. Why not dealerships? why don't we have the same structure of whether it's recruiting or training in-house? And so I decided I'm not getting any younger. Let me be a part of that voice and see if we can just bring to dealerships. And that's really one of the goals of M2L, is just to bring structure, culture, but really, and I'm working with a group here in San Antonio right now. They're a multi-state dealer, and I'm coming in and I'm standardizing the sales process for all the dealerships. But more than that, we want to create an onboarding pathway that makes sense for longevity for both the dealership and for the customer.
Well, they need it.
Yeah.
I started selling cars in 1985. I was honored and blessed to have somebody that really mentored me.
Yeah.
But during my 16 years in retail, I've worked some places horrible. And right now in automotive, we have 4 generations for the first time in history. And with all these different generations, things that may be important to you, me, and Charity may be different for Gen Z, or, I mean, their priorities are different. And mine is work my ass off. That's mine. And make a lot of mistakes and continue growing. Now we're a Texas-based company, so I've worked with 3 different. I've had 3 different companies and worked with a lot of dealerships in the San Antonio area. And I'm just curious, since you have bought a lot of cars, are you driving a Lamborghini now?
I am not. I'll tell you, my 12 years at Porsche, 11 years at Porsche really kind of satisfied that need. I was very blessed. I got to drive a different Porsche home every night for 11 years. And then whatever trade-ins came in. My excuse was the batteries are so expensive, somebody has to drive these cars to keep the batteries going on the pre-owned side, right? So somebody had to do it. It might as well have been me.
I like that.
Through that season, it was so amazing because you get to experience all these fabulous cars, and you don't have to make a monthly payment. You have to work. You have to go to work every day. But so I think during that season, I really scratched that itch. The Lamborghini is such an amazing product, especially since Audi's involvement. And wow, what a trip that was the past 2 years, learning that brand and going to Italy and just immersing yourself in the culture and the training. What a great company, but a little bit out of my budget, just a smidge,
right now, only for right now.
Only for right now. That's right. Let's get all the kids through college, and then maybe I'll make that run at my wife and see if I can close the deal. I don't know if how good of a closer I will be at that point.
Well, is there like a specific moment or a catalyst that pushed you into entrepreneurship?
I think anybody would say, and this is the running joke in the automotive space, once you get in, you can't get out, right? There's really no escape path out. And a lot of my general manager friends and from around the States are calling me like, how'd you do this? How's this possible? Well, it takes a lot of faith, and you have to have just that. I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit. I think I've never been afraid just to jump in the deep end and try something new. But more than that, when you have a family and you see that your children are nearing college, and I have one graduating college in 5 days, there's something inside you that you start to realize the precious moments of life, and you don't want to be stuck inside a retail space until you're done. At least I didn't. And so I thought with my background and my passion for teaching and maybe bringing some new things into the dealership world, this would be the time. And so that was the catalyst, really, was family time. I love my family. We just have our first granddaughter. She's 5 months old today. Actually, no, in 2 days she'll be 5 months. And so I want to be able to work hard and play hard when I want to play hard. And by playing hard, that means getting on the floor and pushing toys around.
Yeah, I tell you, me growing up through the ranks, the last few years, I was a GM in a store. Many of those years, I worked for Van Tile, Berkshire Hathaway now.
Mm-hmm.
Different model back then, and it was a grind. You learned a lot, but you had to basically sell your soul 14, 16 hours a day. Now I have 3 kids and 4 grandkids, and they all live within 9.5 minutes of my wife and I, and we're in each other's lives every
Yeah,
single day, and I love it. Okay,
it's
I
the
would have
best.
missed all that. You know what I'm
That's right.
talking about? I would have missed
I
it.
do.
And you're right. A lot of people uh, get out and they'll try something, and then they'll get right back in. They'll jump right
That's right.
back in. And once I left, 27 years, whatever, no, 30, somewhere in there. Anyway,
Yeah,
I never bounced back in. So, but now I'm on the outside, which is great. But
still connected. Yeah,
yeah, the leadership and the training, etc., is it's just as prevalent now as it was in 1985 when I first started selling cars. There's a road to the
that's
sale.
right.
There's a process. There's a system,
That's right.
and is that's where your passion is, right?
That's right. That's right. And I want to enhance it. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I don't want to reinvent the 7 or the 9 steps to the sale. I just think there's space inside the meet and greet and the needs analysis and the demonstration and the trade appraisal and the close. I think there's space in there to be updated. And that's what I'm working with a group here in town right now. We know that this group has a high luxury dealership and they have import, we know that those won't exactly be the same, but there's still a foundational step that they'll take to get to that deal. And we just want to come in and just enhance each one of those steps to the best that we can, according to the manufacturer's expectations and that general manager's expectations. But there's still a baseline that has to be formed. And if it's not, then the training is very difficult. Even if you have an in-house corporate trainer, it's very difficult if you don't have some foundation laid for that person to come in and just do basic training. And we all know what the cost of lack of training is. It's very expensive for a dealership. And so I think a lot of groups are coming to realize that. Let's make this the best it can be for the group, and then we'll tweak every dealership the way we need to. But at least there will be a place of accountability. It will strengthen the salesperson. It'll strengthen the dealership. It'll strengthen the group if there's this platform that we all know that we agree on
I
these
love it.
values. Yeah,
I love it. I totally agree.
yeah,
I'm glad you said what you did about reinventing the road to the sale. No, there's a lot of other things involved and little nuances in between that.
that's right.
My gosh, we could spend an hour just on those nuances.
Yes.
It's but you're bringing something different with a different perspective. It sounds like something a little unique versus other types of people that do what you do, because it could tend to be a crowded space, but there's always a need for that, I believe.
Well,
And
yeah. Well, I would just say, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
oh, sure.
it's a crowded space, but it's also a sensitive space, right?
It
Not
is
every
very,
general manager, just because the COO or the CFO says, hey, there's a consultant coming in, not every general manager is excited about that. So I think it takes a special
no.
personality, and I'm not calling myself special. It just takes a special personality to come in and not be disruptive, but to bring a message and to do it in a way that you can gain the confidence and the trust quickly. It's almost like I'm walking in. It's almost like I'm back at the first step of the sale with the meet and greet, walking into the
Yeah.
general manager, and I'm trying to build rapport. I'm trying to let him know I'm not here to tear the place apart. We're just here to enhance. And I think that's where maybe some fall off the rails a little bit, is they just come in with the wrong approach or the wrong attitude. I'm always going to come in and just make sure that I'm on the same page, and that they understand my spirit is I'm not coming in as the know-it-all. I'm coming in as somebody with some experience, and here's what I want to inject into your process. That's it. So I think that's one of the most difficult parts.
Yeah. I agree. It's like someone walking into the dealership the first time.
Yeah.
I mean,
Or they think everybody's getting fired. I walk in a white shirt
oh
and
yeah,
a
oh my
briefcase, and they
gosh,
think that
yes.
everybody's done.
Let me tell you about a partner that's actually helping dealers get ahead, Global Dealer Solutions. If you've been wondering how to use AI the right way in your dealership, especially on the fixed side, these are the people to call. Their team gets it. Not just the tech, but the real challenges that dealerships face every day. We're talking about conversational AI that doesn't just respond, it converts. It books appointments, follows up with service leads, even answers customer questions with actual relevance. It's not replacing your team. It's making sure your team can focus on what matters most, closing ROs and building relationships. But GDS isn't just about AI. They train your staff, drive traffic, and tighten up processes so your results stick long after the tool is turned on. And everything they do is built around one goal: growth that is real. If you want more service traffic, better follow-up, and a partner that's always a step ahead, check them out. Visit gdsdealers.com, follow them on LinkedIn at gdsdealers, or just shoot them a message and ask, what would you do with my store? And see what they come back with. Global Dealer Solutions, process-driven, people first, always on it.
Well, tell us, how did your experience in high pressure, high expectation environments prepare you to coach leaders in a completely different space?
Yeah, that's a great question.
It is.
I think, I'll always go back to the basics. You know, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. If you can do that, even if you're selling whatever brand you're selling, the main thing is the customer. And if you can connect with the customer, be honest with the customer, don't waste the customer's time, especially in the luxury space. You can do a lot of things, you just can't waste their time. And so when I get into a Zoom, I'm training a few managers right now, or coaching a few managers right now via Zoom that are part of a large group here in San Antonio. It's the same thing. I'm approaching it from the way that we handle our customers: Honda, Porsche, Lamborghini, and Bentley. I forgot to throw Bentley on there. We also opened the Bentley dealership here in San Antonio. If I can make that manager more confident and he becomes a better person because of some of these soft skills that I'm teaching, or just I can share with him some of the experiences and he can sidestep some of the mistakes that I made, he's going to be a better manager. If he becomes a better father, husband, grandfather, if he's willing to open up and talk about just the basics of communication and listening and mixing empathy with accountability. And I think that's the great challenge. You know, we have to hold people accountable. That's not harsh. What's harsh is allowing somebody to fail on your watch because you didn't hold them accountable.
Yep.
You have to have accountability, but you have to learn to mix empathy. And that's where a lot of management breaks down, because they're tired, they're wore out. This is the 10th salesperson they've seen. They're all out of empathy. But if you can get that mixture right as a leader, they'll follow you to the end of the world. Your staff will. So I think if you can get that mixture right, then it affects the rest of the team. It affects the dealership. It just coming in and me just, and I was with a manager last week, and I said, look, I probably can't do what you're doing, just like the third base coach or the pitching coach can't pitch better than the pitcher. But what they do is, from the third base side, that pitching coach will call timeout. He'll walk out and say, look, from my vantage point, from my angle, it looks like you're dropping your elbow. You're not stepping towards the plate. Fix these fundamentals, because from where I'm watching this from, this is what you're doing. Guess what happens? The pitcher fixes those fundamental flaws, or those things that he's been forgetting about, those steps, and he starts throwing strikes again. I think that's the same thing. I just come in with that attitude of, like, from our conversations, this is what I'm seeing. Are you open to letting me speak into your life a little bit right now when it comes to not just managing people, but just managing yourself? And I think that's where my real passion lies.
Yeah, I can see that being really huge, because there's a difference between managing and leading.
Yeah.
I often say managers light a fire underneath people to get them moving. Leaders light a fire inside of people when they find out what their why is, and they because of the empathy, etc. They know you generally want to show them a way to get there.
Love that.
Yeah, good stuff, man.
Yeah, I love that. So Charity, I would say that would be probably the connector for me.
Okay.
To answer your question, yeah.
Well, has there been anything that surprised you as a business owner?
Oh yeah, it's a lot of work. I just wanted to get up in the morning and have a nice shirt on and a pair of sweatpants and my house shoes and not drive in traffic. As it turns out, it's more than that.
Yeah.
And just going through the setup, you know, going through Lamborghini's opening was amazing, because I'd never been a part of a startup dealership. I'd always been a part of dealerships that had already been going for a long time. Same thing here. You know, I learned a lot through that Lamborghini opening, but I'm learning a lot through this opening. I've never done it. I don't have anybody here in the office with me to help me. So, you know, thank God this is the information age and you can find out pretty much anything you need to know. But, you know, starting my LLC, setting up some accounts and just thinking through what the structure will be has been fun. It's challenging, but it's also exciting. And so, and just grinding it out, knowing that if you don't find a new client, if you don't have a new dealership to talk to, or guess what, you're probably not going to get a paycheck next month. So just like selling cars, you know, you've got to constantly be networking and talking and building your pathways for sure.
Absolutely. I got a few of those, no paychecks. Uh,
Me too.
yeah. I mean, chasing the dream.
Yeah.
It's tough. Sherry and I we're starting our 5th year of the podcast,
Oh,
and
congratulations.
we wouldn't even have it if it wasn't her and Patrick and other people that keep it going because everybody wanted to start a podcast, right?
Mhm.
And you say, "Well, this has got to be right. I don't know what to. I'm just gonna have to wait until this or that." No, no, no. You just get started, and
You
then
just do
just
it.
like what you're doing in your entrepreneurial spirit, you
That's
get
right.
started, and you figure it out along the way. There's no blueprint. Just like when you have a child, there's no book on how to raise a child.
No,
It's trial and error, right?
that's right. That's right. We were laughing just yesterday. My son, you know, these first time parents, and we were there too. So there's no manual to open up and see how this is going to go. So it's fun again from this vantage point to sit back and just laugh, not in front of them, but after they leave. You laugh at them after they leave, and that part's been fun too of being a grandparent.
Yeah. I remember one with my sons, like, he didn't roll in. And occasionally I would say as he was growing up, well, you'll know when you have your own child. Oh, Dad, you don't know what you're talking. I got it all figured out. No, no, no. Okay. Well, now he understands.
Yes, he
Okay.
does. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. You don't know until you are there.
that's right. That's right.
Good for you.
Well, I'm curious to know, since you coach new or underperforming managers, what's the most common skill gap do you see? And how do you help them close it?
You know, what I'm seeing right now is just deal fatigue. I think just fatigue. But so my approach is I go in and I do this assessment. You know, I found, and I'm just speaking from experience. The managers I work with and I've worked with for the past 17, 18 years, whether for or with or under, I look at it as a scale and there's a balancing act that goes on here. And they either have a strong skill set and a lower mindset, or it's flipped. There's a high mindset, which means they have a great attitude, they set the culture, they believe in the vision, they're pumping the team up, but some of the skill set isn't there. Very rare do you find the manager that scale is equaling out to where they're both kind of level on each side. And that's my passion, is if I can get that scale. I'm a very visual person. I have to see the manager with holding a set of scales. If I perceive that he's lower on the skill set, we'll dig into that. Is it putting a lease together? Is it closing a deal? Is it making sure the deal's clean or structuring it for finance, whatever it is? Or is it just you have a bad attitude? You're really good at closing deals. You're really good at penciling leases. You know everything to do on the skill set side, but you're kind of poison. And I would never use that vernacular or talk like that, but that's how I see it in my mind. And so my purpose is to try to get that scale to balance, because if you can get a balanced manager that has a great skill set and a great mindset and get those things, they're never going to be perfect. We get that. But if you can get them as closely as level as possible, I think that's where the magic happens.
Do you find, or let me share my experience. The
Yeah.
common denominator in my experience in working with people is finding out, I think in the overall scheme of things, people want to know they count, they matter, they make a difference, and they're part of something.
That's right.
And to tap into particularly the older men and women get, whatever their dreams were and aspirations were, sometimes they lose sight of them and they get stuffed down.
That's right.
But they have a why. And if we can reawaken that why as a focal point, then they're willing to get excited, enthusiastic, which creates the action, which creates the results, and it can be really high yielding, and there's a lot of personal rewards come from that. But if they take their eye off of that, then it's just like the enthusiasm and it wanes, the action isn't there, and the results aren't what they and and I'd like to find out how to break that cycle. Is it the same for you?
Waiter, check please. The podcast is over. Russell just said it. I can't say it any better than that. It's done. We're finished here. Because you just put it all in a capsule. Yes. Yes. And I'll add on to that. A lot of people are not willing just to come out and be honest about what their weaknesses are. I wasn't. So, when I stepped into management, I had a strong mindset, but I had a very weak skill set. But I got tossed in. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have a manual really so fortunately,
trainers that came in and worked with you.
So I think that's the secret, is you have to spend time, whoever I'm consulting or coaching, they have to see my level of sincerity, and hopefully that opens them up, because until they open up, because I didn't want to admit that I didn't understand how residuals could fit into a different payment plan, or I'm making stuff up. Putting a lease together at Porsche or Lamborghini is not the easiest thing in the world. It's very different, When you get in that position of leadership, sometimes you're afraid to be vulnerable. I want to teach that vulnerability is not a weakness, it's a strength. And it will skyrocket your career, no matter how old you are, if you'll just be vulnerable to somebody that knows. And then the education happens. Somebody told me a long time ago, you cannot ever be educated until you're honest. Honesty is the beginning of all education. So what that means is, if you come in with a preconceived idea, or you come in with a filter from your past or background, it's very hard to get educated. So my job is to get to the place where we can both be honest with each other, because we know if we are, the end goal is a better person, a better manager, a better GSM, a better general manager, if that makes sense.
Trying to get people to understand that.
Yeah.
It's like somebody that fell in love with somebody head over heels, and it wasn't what he or she thought, and they got hurt. They got spanked really, really hard, right? And it hurt them because they were vulnerable, and the passion and all that stuff. And then they shut down and say, well, I'm not going to do that again. Well, that's exactly the opposite, because it is going to happen at some point in time. But unless you're willing to be vulnerable, you're not going to meet anybody or have any kind of quality relationship with any of the opposite or whatever, right?
That's right. No, and I'm writing this piece right now. I don't know, maybe I'll put it out at some point on LinkedIn or something, but I want to title it "When Leaders Wear Red," and it's not political. So don't think that. It's that I remember watching this old movie, and I'll make this real short, about pirates that were fighting. It was a merchant sea captain that was fighting a pirate ship that was approaching. And the story goes that he went and put on this red jacket, and the reason he put the red jacket on was to cover any potential wounds that would happen during the fight, so that the crew would not become demoralized by seeing their captain bleed. Well, guess what? We do the same thing today. A lot of leaders wear red so that they'll camouflage any kind of past hurt or wound, and I'm not a therapist, I'm just saying we cover up so much where and at some point the battle's over in the crew, the real strength of that captain came when he exposed his scars and let everybody know that, yes, he did make mistakes. Yes, he has been wounded. Yes, he was hurt, but he made it through. And then the whole crew just, thinks so much of him because he's battle tested. He's been there. But I think that we do that in leadership, not just in the automotive space, but we do that as moms, as dads, as brothers, as sisters, as CEOs, as leaders at any level. We just cover up. And if we could learn to show that vulnerability a little bit, I think that it just explodes your careers. And you'll talk to people, or I watch podcasts all the time, very, very successful people. You'll see that thread go through their story every single time. But yet, for some reason, so many just want to not go to that place and just say, hey, look, I don't know how to do this. And that's how I made it at Porsche. I just kept asking people, I have no idea what I'm doing. I just don't know what I'm doing here. And then you learn it. You get somebody to teach you, you learn it, and then you never have to ask that question again, right? You'll have other questions, but you just start putting these tools in your tool bag, because you had the vulnerability to ask the question.
I love it.
Thank you.
I've had many mentors, life coaches, and in different categories in my life, and I've learned so much from it. And one that really got me started was to work with me on being vulnerable, and that to step outside of your comfort zone, because that's where life is really experienced. The people that are in their comfort zone, I'm not talking about cars and where you live. I'm talking about people that step outside and are willing to take risk, because there's only two kinds of fear: fear of what you know and fear of what you don't know. And
That's
people
right.
are much more hesitant about the unknown, because then you always got those people, oh, hold on, Doug, you can't do that. I tried that. That doesn't work. And let me tell you why. And then, of course, Doug, you step out and you interrupted them because you just made it work.
Yeah. I was told by several people not to take a management position at Porsche, that it would be very volatile and I wouldn't last. And I ended up sitting in that desk for 12 years. So, thank God I didn't listen to that advice. And it changed my family. It changed my family's trajectory. It changed our lives. It allowed us to live a beautiful life here in San Antonio. Thank God I didn't listen to the voices.
Yep. And you know what? Those voices, what I found out, I didn't know it first, but what I found out was it's not even about, oh no, you can't, I tried, that won't work. It's not about that at all. I disrupted their comfort zone because I got outside of mine. That's what the draw.
That's right. And they're not ready to go.
That's right.
So they don't want you to go.
So for all of you listening to all of us, keep that in mind when the naysayers, family's usually the biggest ones, unfortunately, but regardless, okay? If you're chasing a dream, just chase it.
Well, for me, my wife, she would ask the same question at every level of promotion. So at Porsche, I was hired in April. And in August, I became the pre-owned sales manager. And in that January following, I was the GSM. And guess,
wow.
Yeah, so it doesn't happen like that, right?
No.
But it happened. And then I stayed there for 11 years in that position. But the one question my wife would ask me along the way when I'd come home and say, hey, I could be a salesperson there. I started the internet department, but now they want me to be pre-owned. I don't think I can do that. And she would ask me, well, does it pay more? I think so. Oh, you can do it.
Oh my gosh.
And then, hey, they want me to be the general sales manager. I'm not sure. I could do I figured out the pre-owned, but I'm not sure I can forecast and I can read a financial statement. Well, does it pay more? It does. Oh, you can do it. You'll be great.
Well,
I'm just having fun, but she supported me in every other way you can imagine. But you need somebody pushing you and helping you see the vision and what's on the other side of that fear curtain. If you don't, you're probably not going to take that step.
Yeah. And most, and it's okay. Most aren't willing to.
I think that a little thing I've learned in my years is the amount of pressure that you can handle typically determines the level to which you'll rise. It doesn't have as much to do with skill set or ability. I mean, you have to be talented. You have to know how to do certain things. But most people just don't want to handle that next level of pressure. And that's fine. Wherever you're comfortable, that's the space for you, right? But I've found that I've just been watching leaders, and it seems like the leaders that are running companies and CEOs and way far above where I am, it seems they have this amazing ability just to handle pressure. And I just think there's something to that. And so we can bring that into all of our levels where we are, just the ability to handle and juggle the pressures of life. That's typically one of the most important things we'll learn to do.
Well, you're in that spot right now. And I certainly agree with you on that, because it is a lot of pressure. I'm in uncharted waters right now, and our company is exploding. And it's like, there's a lot of things I don't know how to do, but you know what? Charity does. That's why that's why she's the chief marketing officer, right? So
that's right.
more importantly, what I learned, and I say this out loud because everything I say out loud, it comes up in my life sometimes on a day that I control people, places, and things, and I don't. What I really control, the only thing, even though I take the wheel, is that I can control how I act and react to that pressure and those people, places, and things that
There
don't
you go.
happen on my timeline,
There you go.
uh, and that's made me very successful.
Yes, I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more. I think we should flip this around, and I should be interviewing you and Charity
No,
for
no,
answers.
No.
no. You know what? When you maybe there's a time and place, but we want to promote Doug and what you're
Thank you.
doing. You
Thank
stepping
you.
out, entrepreneurship, leadership, management, all the above. Charity, please.
Yeah, well, let's talk about culture for a minute.
Okay.
I assume that's a big part of what you do now as cultural development in the workplace.
That's right.
And so, what do you think are some warning signs or some early warning signs of a team's culture slipping?
Yeah, I think to first, everybody has their own definition of culture. And for me, it's culture is just what you allow. It's not what you say, it's what you do. So those are the two sentences that I kind of go by. And the thing I look for is, nobody wants to, I've heard this over and over, but it's so true. It's a crude kind of example, but nobody wants $100 steak served on a dirty plate. And so when you go into a place and you see the beautiful product they're selling, whether it's a diamond ring or it's a Lamborghini or it's a Bentley, and the atmosphere doesn't match the product wherever you are, I think that's a real warning sign for me. It's a red flag that I look for because we should be matching what our product demands. And I think every product, no matter the price tag, no matter how many zeros are at the end, every product demands a certain culture. And there are cultures everywhere. There's a culture in this podcast right now. There's a culture when you get on the elevator, going up in the building that you're going to go in later. So the culture has to be set and reset. It can't be a banner on a wall or a plaque on a desk. It has to be led. It has to be an example, and it has to be what is allowed and what is not allowed. And I think that's a never-ending process. And I think the reason it breaks down in a lot of jewelry stores and luxury dealerships, and even there's a culture in our homes, in our families, is because it's hard. It takes work. It takes vision of that leader or the leadership team or the management team to be married to that. They have to want it. It has to be a passion of theirs, because we all know what happens when you allow something that doesn't belong. It becomes part of the process.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think the red flag is, and the warning indicators are, you just have this feeling that you leave unsatisfied, that it didn't deliver. And it was more of a process than a relationship in whatever arena you're in. So I think it's a feeling, but I think from a team side, it's what's allowed. You have to work so hard to keep everybody aligned and focused on the vision. And there are steps to do that, and we go through that with our coaching. But for me, in just general terms, it's a feeling that matches what you're doing.
Yep. I agree. Sometimes I walk in, no, not sometimes, every time I'm in a restaurant and I go to the restroom to see what that's like.
Yeah.
And in regards to their culture, because sometimes it is ugly. It is not good. It is horrible. And that's, what else are they letting go in their culture? If this isn't, anyway.
Yeah. No, that's a great point.
Kind of leadership too, that you're talking about, but you have to get people to buy in. And what if they don't buy in?
Yeah. That's a great question. And I think that's where the process breaks down again. You have to have the vision statement. For me, I have to simplify everything. It's just how the vision statement is about tomorrow. The mission statement's about today. So what we do today is the mission to get to the big picture for tomorrow. And if you have somebody on the team that's not in on the mission, I think that you really have to have that management set that will dig in, spend the time and dig in, because there are a lot of good people that get tossed aside
Yep.
because of what they were going through. Again, it goes back to this lack of empathy piece where you just want to hold them accountable, but you have no idea what's going on in their lives. Well, I think that you have to have a leadership team that is sensitive, and you dig into this underperformer, no matter if they're a rookie or a veteran, and you find out the core issue, and you owe that person the opportunity to dig in and find out maybe they didn't get the training they needed. Maybe they were watching, let's get back to the automotive space. Maybe they were just watching the way one manager penciled deals and the way he was doing it. And then the next manager comes in and now it's a disaster. It's a train wreck, right?
Yep.
So maybe it's a training piece. Maybe it's a lack of accountability piece. Maybe it could be so many different things. If you investigate all those and provide them the platform, there will be some people that you'll have to realize as a leader that you cannot help. And it is heartbreaking. But at some point, you'll have to invite them to find their happiness elsewhere, or they'll destroy the team. But you have, before you get to that point, you have to make sure as a leader, as an owner, as a general manager, that you've invested that time and there's not a shadow of a doubt remaining that there's not something going on. Maybe they're having a hard time. I've had employees that couldn't get to work. They were taking a bus to get to the work to sell cars. Did I know that? Not until I dug into it and found out that's why they were late all the time. They didn't have a car. So there's levels that you have to be willing to go to as a leader. And I'm afraid to say that sometimes leaders just get lazy, or they get so overburdened. Maybe they're not lazy. They just have too much on their plate. And that's where the owner, the CFO, the CFO, whoever has to come in and monitor that middle management and make sure they're not overcooked.
Yep.
So that they can have the time to figure out what's going on. But there will come a time. There will be a few people. The number's few, but there will be a few people that just can't stay on the bus.
That's true. And sometimes it's our fault. We don't know what, like the guy that was late all the time because he didn't have a car. And when you knew that and understood, the empathy was there, and you helped out.
Oh,
and then there's probably equally, Doug, there's probably equally as many peoples that you've poured into and were vulnerable with, and they were somewhat vulnerable with you in that moment. But they didn't get it then, but maybe they got it later from somebody else who reminded them of you and your leadership style. That's what I always hope happens.
That's a great point. And if I could inject something here, I think this will help somebody. Grow where you are. I've had so many people call me, and by many, I'm saying probably more than 20 that used to work for me and say, I wish I would have stayed. I made a mistake. I want to come back. Why? I think that what happens is they don't grow themselves where they are. It's easier to point at a manager or point at an F&I person or point at other salespeople. But if you would stop pointing and just grow yourself, max yourself out where you are at that level, a lot of the times, all that other stuff takes care of itself. But when you stop growing where you are, and it's happened to me, I've left an opportunity that I probably shouldn't have left. Well, I don't want to say that because it led to many open doors for me. But let me just say this. I could have grown more where I was and brought more to that organization. But I fell into the trap, and it's so easy to do. This person isn't doing their job. This leader is getting away with all these things. This salesperson is a favorite, all these things. And you get distracted, and you stop improving yourself every day. And that's a trap. And then you go to the next dealership, or you go to the next company, and it happens all over again. And then it happens again. And I think that's why there's so much bouncing around of salespeople, is because they focus on others more than themselves.
It's a huge trap.
It's a huge trap. And I want to be a voice that will come into an organization and just speak to some of these people and just say, listen, stop.
But
Don't do this. This is a great place. This is a great place.
Right. Usually, somebody's really not listening because it's never their fault. And, I'm a victim.
Me too.
Terminal uniqueness. You don't understand, Doug. My situation's different. No, I understand perfectly. You don't know what the hell you're actually talking about, but I'm going to work with you. Okay. First of all, you have to own it. Where you're at, right? You have to own it.
That's
Where
right.
you're at is the sum total of all the decisions you make. It's your deal. Own it. And then we can start from there. If you can't do that, I love you where you're at. I'll help you when I can, but I'm going to work with somebody else now.
You know, to amplify your point, a salesperson that I hired many years ago, he's now actually a new car sales manager for a luxury brand, doing amazing. He came out of the Marine Corps, and this was his first job out of the Marines after 2 or 3 tours of duty. He rose to the top so fast. And again, it's not because I had all the answers, but it's whatever I told this guy to do, whatever I asked him to do, there was never a question. If I told him to go stand out in the middle of Interstate 10, I wouldn't do this. He'd go out there until I told him it was no longer time to stand out there in the middle of the interstate. That's the mindset that he had.
That's a
And
leader.
look what happened. But he,
Yeah.
you know, that came from the military. Okay, I get it. But he took that same template and just did what was asked of him and didn't ask questions. And oh, this guy made so much money. He had such an amazing sales career, and now he's sitting in the seat that I used to sit in. Just because he had that respect for somebody that had been there before and was already pre-programmed in his mind. If he said, do this, do it. And I don't mean that as a lording over or some kind of dictator. I mean it from the angle of, I've been there before. Trust me. This is what you need to do. And so I think exactly to your point, if they would just get there, the whole world opens for them. If they'll just be willing to listen.
Well,
Powerful stuff.
I want to ask you. So I'm going to introduce something new that we haven't learned in this conversation yet.
Okay.
You coach pastors and church staff,
Yeah.
and that's a very different world than automotive.
Mhm.
So what parallels do you see between working with dealerships and leading a church?
People.
I knew it, man. I knew
Russ
it.
called it.
So I'm passionate about the faith-based community as well. I was raised, my parents were missionaries, so I was raised kind of going all around. And I think that's what helped me fall in love with people. I truly love people. You can probably tell, very relational. But it's people. Wherever there are people, there are problems. Wherever there are people, there are great successes. So I'm also coaching pastors and going into churches and faith-based organizations because it's part of my past. I love it. I did pastor a church in Cincinnati for 10 years before I got into the automotive space. I traveled and spoke for many years as a young person. So I see, look, they have people. The corporate world has people. They have structure. They have an organization. The corporate world has an organization. And so I love being able to speak into pastors and faith-based organizations because it's just such a huge part of what I am. So it's people. Wherever there are people,
And people
wherever
are
I
people.
am, I'm going to need help.
There you go. Right. There you go. I love that. Great question, Jared.
Yeah, great question, Sharon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, tell us something that you find the most rewarding about what you do now.
Looking at development, seeing people develop. I mean, I can go back and see, I have salespeople that are now general managers. I have salespeople that I hired and trained that are now new car sales managers, pre-owned managers all over San Antonio, all over Houston. To me, there's nothing more rewarding than seeing somebody succeed and seeing success under you that you had something to do with. There's nothing that compares to that, whether it's your child, your children, whether it's a friend, or whether it's an employee. Nothing will ever match the feeling of seeing somebody grow because of you.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I got a question.
Okay.
Do you think that what you've achieved in your life or in general, people, I believe service is really important and giving back. And I believe that what I have in my life today is in direct proportion of what I've given. Do you find any truth in that?
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I think that's the secret. I really do.
I do too.
I think it's the secret, and I think it's the only way to find real happiness is to give and to take what you've acquired, whether it's knowledge or if you have some resource that you can pour into somebody else or into an organization. I think it's the way we're hardwired. I think that's deep in our DNA. And if you don't, if there's not that reservoir, you turn into kind of a cistern. There's a difference between a well and a cistern, right? The cistern is just, there's inflow, but there's no outflow. And so the water turns a little green and it gets a little mucky, and it's not desirable. People are drawn to wells where there's a fresh flow in and there's an exit.
Yeah.
And that's what people are drawn to. People that live their lives like that are continually giving, I think, are just more attractive, that people want to be around them. Man, when I get around people that are high performers, I just sit there. I try not to say a word. I try just to shut up and just drink what they're pouring out. If it's in an arena that I want to learn about, oh my goodness. So I think that's really, really a powerful truth. Maybe the biggest truth that we'll talk about today. Yeah.
Yeah, my many years ago, a mentor, because we all think in pictures, right? He was painting this picture of snow melting, ice cap mountain cascading down, et cetera, pristine, beautiful sunlight off it, et cetera. It makes us down lower, splits up and goes different areas. One over here turns out to end up being, it gets beavers or whatever. It gets stagnated, it gets blocked, something gets built, and it develops this, stench, and it's not clear anymore. And the other side is, it's kind of like our bodies and our minds. We have to remain open, and we have to let that pass through. Or if we hold on to it and think it's ours, you don't understand. It's mine. All you want to do is take it. Actually, that's the opposite. How you get what you want, and you need to let it go to keep that flow going. Do you believe that?
I believe it. And I'll give you another picture. It just dropped into my little brain here. Many, many years ago, when I was a young person, I was in the country and I saw this broken down church. Door was hanging sideways, the windows were busted out, and there was a cemetery around the church. And I was with
Wow,
my
what a
father.
picture.
I know. And I was with my father, and he said, never forget this picture. He said, at the end of the day, any organization, he said at one time, this place was full of life and they had great programs, but somewhere along the way, they became closed off to the inflow. They didn't see the value in bringing new people on the team. They didn't see the value of reaching out to the community. And so he said, never forget this picture. At the end of the day, any organization that does not create inflow, this is the picture of any home, any family, any company that doesn't stay open to new ideas and new processes. At the end of the day, you'll have a broken down building with a door on sideways and a
No
cemetery
doubt.
around it. Yeah.
No doubt. Some of the greatest teaching moments in my life were doing mission work in Nicaragua and Kenya, drilling water wells, and what that actually, I mean, just, and to fly, and then people
Wow.
take with the wealth that we have and the freedom that we have for granted. And when you see and you're part of something like that, just what water represents, you can grow things. You can now have chickens and cows and you can milk and eggs and on and on and on that water brought. And then yet they'll walk 5 miles to school with a 5-gallon bucket of water on their head. And it's amazing. I mean, I'm
amazing.
getting it's very humbling to be a part of that.
But if we can take some of these simple lessons and pictures that we're painting and lay them on the template of a person that's wanting to advance their career, this is what it's all about. There's not some formula yet to be discovered.
Nope.
It's about these basic principles that you
That's
have
all
to
we
be
talked
open
about
to.
today is the basic principle. And I have to say this to you, heard it like a million times, but my mentor that started my whole, before that, I was the taker. There's dream makers and dream takers. I was the taker. Whatever you had, I wanted. It was mine. Okay. I didn't understand. But then I had a really profound spiritual experience one day, and things kind of changed from there. As a long time ago, but it's an important part of my life today. And he said, Russell, are you willing to do the things that other people are not willing to do? So you can have become the things that most people will never have and never become.
Powerful.
That was very powerful. And it sent me on a lifelong trajectory I'm still living out today and will continue the rest of my life. So, wow. How can we help Doug? How can we help Doug?
I need groceries next week. So if I could find,
I got you, brother. Just tell me I'll Venmo or sell you the money, man. You inspired me today.
No, I just want to, I want to make myself available to any organization, anywhere that, whether it's by Zoom or in person, just to bring the experience I have and the knowledge I have from life and the automotive space and the faith-based space to a team. I just want to help teams get better. I want to help managers get better. And that's not because I know it all or have all the answers. No, no. It's because I just believe there's room for improvement in a lot of organizations. And you just need somebody standing on third base saying, from here, this is what I'm seeing. And this is what I'd like to share with you just to get better. Because I think down deep, everybody, every team, every organization wants to get better. I think sometimes it's just hard to get there because they don't see the path. And I just want to be one of the many voices that helps provide a pathway to individuals becoming better.
Well said.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Are you a social media guy? I mean, are you on LinkedIn and all that stuff? We hope. Yes, you probably are to some
I'm
degree.
on LinkedIn, and I just started an Instagram page, and it's very humbling. I have 3 followers, and I think one of them is myself on Instagram.
I love it. Well, you're going to get more.
Okay.
So, yeah, are there any questions we didn't ask you that you wish we had, or did we pretty much cover it?
I've had many interviews through my Porsche time and Lamborghini time, and this has probably been the most enjoyable because it's been the most honest and relaxed. And we just really covered, like you said, some basic things. No, I'm just honored that you, Charity, and Russell would let me be a part of this. I appreciate it very much. I've had fun, which I think is the baseline for anything that is great, is just having fun. I've really appreciated this time. So no, you guys did a great job, and thank you again for inviting me.
Well, we thank you too. And I have to say this, I think it's really important that having somebody like you and the environment and the reach that we have is not because of me, it's because of Charity and
Yeah.
what she does. And
Yeah.
it's really amazing. Now, she makes me the face of the company and builds me up, and we have a huge social media presence, huge following with our podcast. It's international, actually. So, look, all of you watching this, I know there's a lot of you watching it. You're going to see when it comes out, Doug's going to be everywhere. We hope you got a lot out of this very powerful message. Like him, love him, reach out to him, connect with him on LinkedIn. Go to Instagram first. He needs a little love. Okay?
Thank you.
But we are really humbled and honored to have you as a guest on today. Thank you. Thank you, Charity. And thank all of you out there. This is another successful wrap of WTF, and that's what the fixed ops, all of you out there. We didn't even talk about fixed ops. We talked about being human and wanting more out of life. And I think it got covered really well today because of Doug.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doug.